Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 422nd Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I put onto YouTube. Just before I introduce the teams, I noticed in the lobby this week that a couple of people have been asking who the Brotherhood was and what are the Brotherhood. Well, the Brotherhood clan was starting all the way back in January of 2005 by RTW players Conan and Cannon. Now, at that time, most of the clan, well, all the clans on Rome Total War were CWB clans, okay, Clan War Belt, and they played by the CWB rules, which was at that time 12,500 denarii. Okay, but Conan and Cannon wanted to do something different, so they actually played for double that money, and they played for 25,000 denarii. Okay, now when the CWB clans saw this, because CWB clans in those days were quite elitist, and when they saw Conan and Cannon playing for 25,000k, they used to say things to Conan and Cannon like, "You're not a real clan, you know, you should be playing for 12,500, the CWB rules and all that." And they, you know, they used to get on to Conan and Cannon a lot about that. But Conan and Cannon didn't take any notice of this, and they gradually, steadily recruited to their 25,000 K playing clan there. And as I say, the CWB clans were, as I say, were quite elitist there. And every time you see Conan and Cannon with new recruits with their big capital letter names and their underscores for their tags, they used to often have a go at them. But as I say, Conan and Cannon, they played for different rules in CWB with their no artillery, no LAs, 3 berserkers max, 2 horse archers max, and 6 cavalry max. And the foundations that Conan and Cannon laid all the way back in January 2005 has stood the Brotherhood in good stead. We have now maybe between 12 and 15 regular players on Rome Total War in 2019. So really well done to Conan and Cannon. Okay, our first teammate on this battle today, oh, as you can see, sorry, this map was fought on the Scottish Highlands map. I quite like this map. It's just a bit different, both slopes on both sides and undulating ground, which good generals can make the most of. Okay, our first teammate is Brotherhood member Lee, and he's got 7 archers, 8 infantry, and 4 cavalry, and a cavalry general. Okay, now only 8 infantry. Very low number for the modern day battlefield, and 7 archers. Let's have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. Okay, he's got 8 upgrades, 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack on his cavalry. Okay, so he's got good upgrades. Remember, these guys, these Praetorian cavalry do well with just gold shield, gold attack, so putting stripes on them, it makes them even more elite. And he's got the old school cavalry general. Okay, as I say, we used to all use this cavalry general up to about maybe 9 or 10 years ago when we switched to urban cohort generals. So this really is old school by Lee. Okay, we've seen this before. He likes to use the old school cavalry general, and it'll be interesting to see how well he used it during the course of the battle. Okay, but only 8 infantry. We just have to see if that's going to be good enough during the course of the battle. Okay, our next teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22. Now Legion's got 12 Spartans and 8 long-range Cretan archers. Okay, so 12 Spartans and 8 long-range Cretan archers. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Mars, who has bought the Macedon faction. Now Mars has got 11 pikes, 3 archers, and 6 cavalry. Okay, so 11 pikes, 3 archers, 6 cavalry. I think he's got good upgrades on his pikes. And our last teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who's bought an old-fashioned, old-school Britannia army. As you know, modern Britannia armies are usually 6 maximum upgraded chariots and maybe 14 head hurlers. Well, this is, as I say, maybe a 12 or 13-year-old Britannia army. After I stopped playing with Greek cities at the beginning of Rome Total War, I moved on to Britannia. I've got 9 chosen swordsmen, just 5 head hurlers, and 6 chariots. Okay, so 9 chosen swordsmen, 5 head hurlers, and 6 chariots. A very old school balanced Britannia army. And as you know, I love bringing old armies from years and years ago and old formations to the modern day battlefield to see how they would stack up against really good players. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see how this old fashioned, old school Britannia army does during the course of the battle. Okay, so there's our team, but you wait till you see the other team. This should be a great battle for you to watch, and I hope you enjoy it. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member Aurelius, who has bought the Seleucid faction. Now Aurelius has got 10 pikes, 2 archers, and 6 cataphract cavalry. Okay, so 2 archers, 10 pikes and 6 cataphract cavalry, and he's got 7 upgrades on his cataphract cavalry, and I notice that one of these cataphract cavalry is his general as well. So that's not a bad mixture for Seleucid there. Okay, their next teammate is... and that is Brotherhood member Mad King, who's bought the Bruto faction. Now, Mad King has got 12 infantry, 4 archers, and 4 cavalry. Okay, 12 infantry, 4 archers, 4 cavalry. And if you notice here, he's got his archers guarded by his cavalry there. So if he wants to move his archers anywhere on the battlefield, he can then actually support them with his own cavalry there. So that's why he's got them in a separate formation from his infantry. Okay, our next teammate is... Brotherhood member BARC has also bought the Rome Bruto faction. Now BARC has got 9 infantry, 6 archers and 3 cavalry. Okay, 9 infantry, 6 archers and 3 cavalry. Now 9 infantry, a bit low maybe for the modern day battlefield, I don't know what you think. But also, as I say, he's got 6 archers as well. Okay, so as I say, and he's got just 3 cavalry. There's his cavalry there. Okay, so that's an interesting army build there. And he's just got 7, let's say just 7 upgrades on his cavalry. And his fourth teammate, their fourth teammate is Brotherhood member Trajan, who's bought the Carthage faction. Now Trajan has got 17 spears and 3 slingers. 17 spears, 3 slingers. Just to say, this game when it started off, it was desynced, synchronized, desynced, synchronized, but it did settle down to being okay towards the middle of the game. Okay, at this very, very early stage of the battle here, we decided we were all going to move up to Lee. Up on that right flank, there is slightly higher ground. Can you see I'm moving my Britannia army all the way over from the left flank to go over to where Lee is up on the higher ground. If you notice, all our team there are moving up onto the higher ground there to where Lee is. Okay, so that's the plan there. If you notice here, Lee, as you know, very aggressive attacking player. We've said this before, we've seen it before in battle videos, moving his archers forward straight away to target the Seleucid faction. Now remember those big 120-man Seleucid factions there? Very susceptible to archer fire. But as I say, all our teams trying to move up to this right flank with Lee. But as I say, Lee running his archers forward, he'd love to target those Seleucid 120-man units with his archers there. It could cause a lot of casualties. But he must be aware of those cataphract cavalry. Okay, now Lee has moved his archers forward, backed up with cavalry support. But I just wonder if those cataphract cavalry, where they're effective against armour maces, might be a challenge for his cavalry if it comes down to... a cavalry versus cavalry scrap here. As you can see, the Seleucid general are looking maybe to think about attacking these archers with his cataphract cavalry. He's thinking about it, look. Thinking about it. Now, is he going to hit those archers or is he going to back off? Nope, he's going to back off there, but in the meantime, look, he's suffering casualties there. Lee's brought his own cavalry forward there to support his archers, but the Seleucid general decided to pull his cavalry back. His general unit did suffer about 20 casualties there from archers. So, as I say, he was thinking about charging into these archers, but then decided to pull back when he saw Lee's cavalry moving in there. You can see Mad King was going to bring his cavalry across there to support his Seleucid ally if it got into a cavalry scrap. But as you can see, Lee is now moving his infantry across there to have supported his archers and cavalry anyway. Just like to draw your attention to the other team here on an elevated position. Okay, they are on a higher position there from us. And if we attack, we will be attacking uphill. Okay, as you can see, the other team have formed up there on the higher ground. And as I say, if we attack, we will be attacking uphill. But we're at the moment all going over to our right flank here to where Lee is. Should be a great one for you to watch. Okay, at this stage of the battle, can you see that both Legion and Mars here have decided they're not going to go up to the right flank here. They look like they're going to move towards the enemy this side of that massive rock. Okay, now bearing in mind that the enemy are on an elevated position, are on higher ground, so they're going to get the downhill advantages from both archers and pilot damage as well. Remember, the uphill advantage, when you're on top of a hill, your pilers and arrows go further, they do more damage. Plus, of course, you get the downhill charge bonus as well. So to say, if we decide to attack uphill, we've got all the odds against us kind of thing there. As you can see over here, on our right, on our left flank here, you can see that Mars has got his archers backed up by his cavalry, probably looking to move them forward when he's ready, but he knows that the enemy will have hill advantage there and will outrange his archers. Right, if you notice here, Lee looks like he'd like to come round this side of the rock. Okay, but... Mad King spotted that and have cut off his access there. Lee's making a wise decision there to do a tactical withdrawal, with Mad King blocking his way there. Okay, but as I say, you can see here that the other team are on an elevated position, are on a hill. And as I say, if we attack, we will be attacking uphill with all the disadvantages that brings. Okay, as I say, the original plan was to go up to Lee on that right flank, but as you can see, Mars and Legion here have decided that it looks to me like they're trying to do maybe an uphill attack here. As you can see, Legion here charging forward with his Spartans, backing off those enemy Brutii archers there. Okay, Lee's moving up to support him as well. So to say, at this stage of the battle, it looks like Lee and Mars may be looking to attack uphill, or they may just be standing there to hold their position against the enemy. But Mars' Macedonian troops there, of course, will be a big disadvantage with the uphill advantage the enemy will have with their missiles raining down on his 120-man units that, of course, are very susceptible to archer fire here. Right, as you can see the slope there, you can see the enemy are on an elevated position there. And as I say, if Mars and Legion decide to attack uphill, they will be up against a lot of odds there. And as I say, the Macedonian units, as we know, very susceptible to missile damage anyway, but if the enemy have an uphill advantage, the uphill bonuses there, then of course that will cause even more damage to him. Even the Seleucid archers that are short range with that hill advantage, that they'll be causing damage to Mars's units there if they decide to target him. And of course, I can see that, don't forget, Legion's got 8 Cretan archers, but of course they'll be firing uphill, so they will have shorter range than the enemy on top of the hill there. Right, you can see here some of the Carthage Sacred Band units guarded by Sacred Band Spearmen and the Seleucid Cataphract Cavalry here moving towards Mars' archers and cavalry. Okay. As I say, you know that the Cretan archers will have longer range than the Balearic slingers, but of course, as we said before, because the Balearic slingers are on higher ground, that will neutralise the advantage of the Cretan archers, and those Balearic slingers will have a good range from there and do quite a lot of damage. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. So, as you can see here, right over here, that Mars is moving away, a little bit away from his allies there. Can you see he's in danger of possibly getting isolated if he moves too far over to that flank? Okay, so he needs to be aware of that. The Seleucid could charge down, Seleucid units could charge down on him with that downhill charge bonus, plus you've got the Cataphract Cavalry as well. Plus, if the Carthage general decides to move over, then Mars could become isolated here on the left flank. Okay, now as I say, you can see the Balearic slingers here, and you can see the downhill slope. So the enemy will have definitely the downhill bonus there if they decide to attack Mars. And as you can see, Mars has pulled away from his allies a bit there and could be in danger of being a little bit isolated there. The enemy have spotted that. Can you see the Carthage general there moving forward with his spearmen, trying to cut him off maybe from his Greek city's ally there. But you can see the Seleucid general here charging his Cataphract Cavalry forward, targeting the Cretan archers, targeting Mars' Cretan archers here. And he's challenging those Macedonian cavalry as well. Right, there's the Cataphracts hitting, and bang, as they smash in to the Cretan archers of Mars. Now, Mars may well decide to take these Cataphracts on with his well-upgraded companion cavalry, and yes, he does. Okay, so there's going to be a cavalry scrap here between the Seleucid Cataphracts and the Macedonian companion cavalry. Okay, so you can see here, Mars isn't going to mess around here. He's going to defend his archers here. Now, if you look closely, you can see here, let's pause the game for a second. Can you see here that the Seleucid general has alt-attacked with some of his units? And now, when you say alt-attack, can you see he's using the effective against armor maces, okay? Not the light lances. Those effective against armor maces do a lot more damage than the light lances that you can see. And also, if you notice here, can you see Mars has alt-attacked as well? You can see that some of his men are using swords. There, can you see? They've alt-attacked, and they're a lot more effective than those light lances that the companion cavalry use. Okay, so both of these generals have alt-attacked for their secondary weapon, which is a lot better than their first weapon. Okay, so it's companion cavalry against Cataphracts. Who do you think is going to win here? The Cataphracts or the companion cavalry? I can see several of the companion cavalry start to rout. Now, what Mars is doing now, rather than pull his cavalry back, he's charging his pikes over to try and help his cavalry. Are they going to get there in time? I'm guessing possibly not. Okay, let's pause the game for a second. So Mars pulling his pikes over there to help his cavalry. Okay, that's what he's trying to do. So he's trying to support his cavalry with his pikes. But can you notice what else he's doing here? He's isolating himself even more, pulling further and further away from our allies here, the allies. Right, also can you see that Mad King has got his cavalry in behind our Greek city's ally, possibly looking for the Greek city allies, Cretan archers there, or he might even get behind Mars' infantry. Okay, now you got the Seleucid, enemy Seleucid pikes there could come down as well. So, as I say, Mars pulling over here to help his cavalry has unfortunately, pulled himself away even further from his allies and make him even more isolated. Now, my guess here is that Aurelius is going to pull his heavy cavalry away from the pikes. Obviously, he doesn't want any truck with pikes with their anti-cavalry bonus, so he's going to pull his cavalry away from the Macedonian pikes. But now Mars has moved over that far. He is a long way from his allies. Now you can see here Mad King with his cavalry here was looking to take out the Cretan archers there of Legion. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. So Legion's done well there. He's probably taken skirmish mode off of his archers so they don't run away, and he's covered his archers with his spearmen there. So nice bit of defense for his archers there by Legion. As I say, Mad King was after him with his cavalry, after those archers with his cavalry. Okay, but as I say, look at the gap between Legion and Mars. Mars has put a long way away from his allies there. As I say, he could be a little bit isolated over there on that flank. Okay, and if the enemy decide to move down there, unless he gets back to his allies, as I say, he is in a little bit of an isolated position there. Okay, I see Mars has still got some of his cavalry left, maybe to chase down some enemy archers there, but make no mistake there, Mars is in a bit of a precarious position if the enemy decide to move down onto him from their higher advantage point. Okay, you got Mad King with his cavalry has come over to this side here to chase down Mars' cavalry, along with the Seleucid cavalry units there. Right, can you see Mars here is going to be aggressive with his pikemen there, moving towards these two Carthage Sacred Band units. Okay, he's not just going to stand there to get shot to pieces by enemy archers and slingers. He's going to move forward, try to be aggressive towards these two Carthage Sacred Band units, which he may well take out. He's got the numbers there to do that. Also, he's using his cavalry to try and kill as many of those slingers as he can as well. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. So you can see these archers here are mercilessly in close formation there, shooting arrows into Mars' formation. Now that'd be causing Mars a lot of casualties. Don't forget those archers are in a higher elevated position, so their arrows are going to do more damage, get more impact. You've got Lee here bringing his general unit over here, fast moving general unit to try and take out those archers if he can. Good teamwork by Lee, trying to get his archers over there. Trying to get his general over there to take those archers out. But if Trajan decides to come down here with his Carthage Sacred Band army, look at the downhill advantage that he will get, plus the Seleucid as well. Seleucid and Carthage could both do that, plus you've got both of the enemy Brutii armies here as well. Okay, now what we would like to do is come around this side of the rock if we could. My Britannia army and Lee's army would like to come around this side of the rock so we could get the higher ground advantage, but of course we're blocked here by Mad King and BARC, so we won't be able to do that here. But as I say, back to Mars over here. As I say, I think all his archers have been taken out now, and he is quite isolated over there. But I've noticed the enemy team aren't doing anything about this at the moment. Here's Lee's cavalry general attacking the enemy Brutii archers there. So nice bit of teamwork there by Lee, trying to take those archers out. He knows the damage that those archers are doing to our Macedonian ally, but he needs to pull his general back there, as BARC's sending his cavalry in to chase off the general. Okay, but as I say, you look at Mars' position here. I'm surprised the enemy team haven't moved quicker here to take advantage of the isolation that Mars has found himself in, but they haven't. So maybe Mars, it might be a good opportunity now for Mars to up pikes and run over and join Legion's Greek city units. Was that something you would do now at this stage of the battle? Maybe up pikes, cut your losses and run as fast as you can over to Legion's Greek city unit. Maybe that's the thing to do at this stage of the battle. Okay, but as I say here, you can see that both Trajan and Aurelius here with their pike and spear factions can see the downhill advantage they've got, and they may well attack either Legion's Greek city units or move over to the isolated Mars' Macedonian units there. That's where they look like they're running towards to me. Okay, so both BARC and Mad King's army are still behind them there. and they're moving forward here, maybe to attack our Greek city's ally. Okay, let's just pause again for a second. So as you can see here, the Seleucid units seem to be moving over towards Mars. His units there, okay, looking to charge over towards Mars with the downhill charge bonus that Seleucid would get. Now Trajan here, with its large number of Carthage Sacred Band, may well engage Greek cities, and then the two other Brutii armies may close in as well. But with the Brutii armies moving away from this area, Lee and myself, if we're quick, we might be able to come over here, and then we get the high ground advantage. Okay, so if we're fast and we move fast over here, we may well get up here and we'll get the high ground advantage. We just have to see. It's all about, on this particular map, it's about grabbing the ground advantage. Okay, so grabbing the ground advantage if you can. Very tactical, very strategic this map can be, as I say, by taking the ground advantage. Right, can you see Mars is kind of backing his infantry off here? He can see the Seleucid pikemen moving down towards him. Now, whether Mars looks like he's going to try and run over to a Greek city's ally there now at this stage, or whether he's going to try and fight uphill against the Seleucid pikes, I'm not quite sure. But you can see the Seleucid pikes here closing down onto Mars, so he might have to fight. As you can see, the enemy Carthage Sacred Band units have engaged our Greek city ally there, and look at the downhill advantage that those Carthage Sacred Band have got. Okay, but meanwhile here, Lee and myself have spotted here that the enemy have moved down the hill. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to charge over here and try and get up onto the higher ground. You see my chariots are moving very fast up onto the higher ground there. But as I say, the enemy Seleucid pikemen here are engaging Mars downhill here. Mars is doing really well to hold as long as he could, because he suffered lots of archer casualties there as well. But as you can see here, MADKING's making the most of his cavalry advantage over here and charging into Legion's Cretan archers. Luckily, Legion's got a couple of pike units there to slowing down the cavalry damage to his archers. But as you can see here, can you see how those Carthage Sacred Band units with their downhill advantage are starting to engulf our Greek city ally there? Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. Okay, so as you can see here, the Seleucid armies engaging Mars is Macedonian units, but you can see the Cataphract cavalry are kind of on the flank of Mars is infantry there, so they could charge in maybe at the right time there and could cause a mass rout. Because don't forget, those Macedonian have suffered a lot of archer damage, so they will be susceptible to routing because their morale will be so low. The enemy archers are still targeting them, but here you can see our Greek city allies trying to hold the downhill charge of those Carthage Sacred Band, plus he's trying to save his archers there. Right, can you see I'm running my head hurlers and infantry over, my Britannia head hurlers and infantry. I'm coming this side of the rock because I think our Greek city allies need as much help as he could get and as fast as I can. So rather than go around the other side of the rock, that's going to take a long time, I'm running directly over to my Greek city ally. I've got my chariots here on the higher ground above the enemy now, and if you notice here, Lee is tactically moving his infantry and cavalry up here as well. So we will now have the uphill the downhill advantages now. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do, get above the enemy, and the enemy have kind of ceded the high ground there by attacking our allies. Maybe they're thinking there, if they can take out Mars and Legion there, then they'll have the numbers to beat Mars and myself, bearing in mind I'm only Britannia, a lesser, so-called lesser 31k faction. Okay, so as I say, Mars and Seleucid there are really scrapping here, but as I say, there's enemy cavalry in behind Mars's infantry, and Mars's infantry have been battle depleted by archer fire there, so their morale will be even lower than what it usually is, and Macedon morale is not very good anyway. Okay, so here you can see BARC has seen Lee and myself coming across on the higher ground there, and decided rather than try to block us, he's going to move out the way because he can see we have got the downhill advantages now. Okay, so you can see here they're going to try and finish off Mars by the looks of it as fast as they can, and bearing in mind that Mars has been fighting for a long time over in that isolated position, he may well be taken out. But as you can see here, my chariots are on the higher ground now. Lee is on the higher ground above the enemy team. So as I say, the enemy team has ceded the higher ground to us, and as you can see, I'm running my chosen swordsmen and head hurlers in here to try and get over as fast as I can to Legion's infantry that are being besieged and engulfed by Carthage Sacred Band troops. Okay, here, so unfortunately for Lee here, I can see a couple of his units have just been routed by a cavalry hit in the rear. I think Mars's infantry are already tired. They're battle depleted. Can you see that Carthage Sacred Band cavalry going into the rear? And there they go. They're going to smash in and bang as they smash into the rear of Mars's infantry there, and Mars's infantry has now been routed. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. Okay, so on our left flank now, Mars got himself a little bit isolated there and has now paid the price, and his army has now been completely routed. Okay, so the enemy now have taken advantage of Mars's isolation there, and we have lost our ally there on the left flank. Now also here, can you see a lot of legions, Greek city units are starting to rout as well, with the downhill charge bonus that the enemy had onto our Greek city ally there. So as I say, I'm running my chosen swordsmen and head herders over here as fast as I can to try and help Legion. And as I say, Lee has come around the other side of that rock and has now got the higher ground advantage. But as you can see here, as I say, all our Macedon ally has just been taken out, and a lot of our Greek city allies units have now been taken out as well. Look at the numbers here. Okay, now remember, I think Lee only, did he have 8 infantry? That's all he's got, is 8 infantry Lee has, plus my Britannia chosen swordsman and my head hurlers here. But look at the enemy, nearly 2 intact Brutii armies. A lot of Carthage Sacred Band left, and a lot of Seleucid left as well here. So, as I say, Lee and myself now will be charging over as fast as we can, trying to make the most of the downhill advantages that we will now have as the enemy have moved off the higher ground there. Okay, but as I say, just look at the numbers there. Remember, the enemy are the Brutii, the Seleucid, the Brutii, the Seleucid, and the Carthage faction there. Okay, so that's and we're just at the moment there, the only thing that's left is purple SBQR and my Britannia units left. There's a couple of Greek city units left, but they'll be extremely battle damaged there. But as I say, we've got the downhill advantage now. So our Greek city allies just lost his general there. So what I can see here, can you see the Carthage Sacred Band? The enemy Carthage Sacred Band has got their back to us because they're still engaged in some Greek city units. So I'm going to charge my Britannia troops, my chosen swordsmen, into the rear of those engaged Carthage Sacred Band, hoping to rout them. Can you see my chosen swordsmen charging there? Bang! As they smash into the rear of those Carthage Sacred Band. Straight away, can you see the impact of my chosen swordsmen there have routed those Carthage Sacred Band units. Sandwich attack there between our Greek city ally and my chosen swordsman. Okay, so that was a good move there. We've routed a heck of a lot of the Carthage Sacred Band units, plus Lee's moving his infantry forward as well. Okay, but remember, look at the odds. The enemy here, as you say, we've got the downhill advantage now, but the enemy are the green Brutii, Carthage army, and the Seleucid. Okay, so just look at the numbers there. You can see the advantage that the enemy have got. Okay, but as I say, you can see my chosen swordsman there. I've hit Warcry to enhance their attack specifications, and I'm charging straight through here, trying to take out as many of those Sacred Band units as I can. And Lee's on the higher ground now. He'll be throwing pilots into the enemy, and don't forget, with the downhill bonus that he'll be getting with those pilots, he'll be doing more damage with those pilots, and they'll travel further as well. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. Okay, so as you can see here, Lee's got his archers in close formation there, shooting with the downhill bonus. Okay, so he's on an elevated position here, shooting arrows into the enemy team. More impact, more damage, and further distance there. I've got my head hurlers here as well. I'm on an uphill advantage as well, so my effective against armor heads will be doing a lot of damage to the enemy. And as I say, Lee has got the higher ground advantage here, but he's only got 8 infantry. Remember that. Okay, I've got my chariots up on the higher ground here. Now that's going to give me a massive downhill chariot charge bonus. So that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to hit into the flank of BARC's infantry there. Okay, if you look at the positioning of my chariots here, I've positioned them deliberately to hit the flank, and if Lee charges his cavalry in as well, we'll have a combined downhill charge bonus of chariots and cavalry into the flank of BARC's infantry. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking to do at this stage of the battle. Okay, but as I say, just look at the enemy numbers. All that Brutii infantry, all those Seleucid pikemen. Okay, we've taken out a heck of a lot of Carthage Sacred Band spearmen there, but just look at the numbers here. Remember, Lee has only got 8 infantry. Okay, that could prove pivotal towards the end of the battle. Okay, so Lee moving forward with his infantry. And as I say, I've got my chosen swordsman involved. Now, what I want to do with my chosen swordsman, okay, just pause the game for a second. I want to take them away from those sacred band units and charge into these Brutio units. I want to pin and hold these Brutio units here, okay, pin and hold them, so that then, when we do our charge, our downhill charge there, these units will be pinned and held, and we can smash into the flank of those pinned and held units there with our cavalry and chariots. Alright, so that's the tactic. That's what we're going to do here at this time. But you can see here some Brutio here. You can see Mad King taking his army up the hill there to get above us. So he then will have the hill advantage, okay? Look, he's going to try and get his Brutio infantry above us so he can come in behind us. Maybe in a sandwich attack there between him and BARC will be in the middle. So we've got to act fast here. Okay, so I've hit Warcry again, once again enhancing the attacking specifications of my chosen swordsman. I'm now charging forward into those Brutio units. Okay, I'm suffering a lot of pile of damage here, but I'm going to charge in there. I want to pin and hold those Brutio units before we charge. Right, can you see Lee charging his cavalry in? Can you see my chariots coming down the hill here? Okay, we've got a massive downhill chariot and cavalry charge going on. Here we go, Lee's cavalry charge in, and bang! It smashes in there. See my chariots coming down the hill as well. Bang, as my chariots smash into the flank of those enemy troops. Okay, so we've got Lee's cavalry and my chariots smashing in to those enemy troops there. The enemy troops are frightened by chariots. Okay, so their morale will drop. They're very susceptible to routing here. Okay, we just routed the Brutio general. Don't forget, all those units here are going to be frightened by, let's just pause the game, frightened by chariots. It's a great cavalry and chariot attack there by Lee and myself. Remember, the chariots take morale away from the enemy troops, making them more susceptible to routing. Plus, we had the downhill charge bonus too. Plus, Lee's archers are shooting from that elevated position, causing more damage. But that was a massive cavalry charge there from Lee and myself, have taken out most of the Brutio troops. Okay, Aurelius, his Seleucid troops here, he may well be looking to move towards those, towards Lee's archers there. But that downhill chariot and cavalry charge then that Lee and me have just done, look, has routed most of the Brutio troops there. Okay, don't forget the pin and hold with my infantry there was crucial to the attack there of our downhill chariot and cavalry hit. Okay, so we've routed in one stroke most of the enemy Brutio troops here. As you see, the Seleucid pike general here moving his pikes up here to try and take out the SBQ archers. Lee's moving his archers back wisely there. So we now have got to kind of come uphill now to attack those Seleucid pikemen. There's a couple of Brutio units still left there. See Lee moving his cavalry forward there, attacking the flank and rear of those pike units. Plus I'm moving my chariots up there as well. Let's just pause the game for a second, okay? So you can see moving my chariots up there. See those units frightened by chariots, So Seleucid morale is not very good anyway, and frightened by chariots will lower their morale even more, making them more susceptible to routing. Okay, so remember, with chariots, it's not just the attacking specification they've got, but it's a massive fear factor they bring, lowering the morale of enemy troops as well. Okay, so now my chariots and chosen swordsmen are attacking the last few Brutio units there, just looking to rout them. Okay, I'm using the war cry a lot with my infantry. As soon as the war cry runs out, I press it again. Don't forget, the war cry enhances a barbarian troops' his attack specifications, which I've been using all the time there. Okay, you can see a few Seleucid units left, but they look like they're starting to rout to me. My chariots, I'm chasing down routers as well, making sure none of them's going to rally. A nice attack here by Lee, and bang, straight into the rear of those Seleucid pike units. There you go. And we've now routed, I think, most of the Seleucid troops there as well. So it looks like our team has managed to go on to win the battle there. I see Legion still got his general unit still left alive there. I think that's the only unit he's got. He may have some Cretan archers units left as well, but the rest of his Spartans have been taken out. So I think both Mars and Legion did well there, holding as long as they did, bearing in mind that they were fighting uphill and the enemy had all that downhill bonus there. Okay, let's say with my chariots, my fast moving chariots, I'm looking to take out any of the routers there, so they don't rally. Okay, so over here, do you remember that was that cavalry fight between the Seleucid cataphract tanks of the ancient world and Mars' companion cavalry there? And then here is unfortunately where most of Mars' infantry were taken out by a sandwich attack there, hammer and anvil attack, pikes at his front, cavalry at his rear. And as we move up the battlefield here, you can see how intense the battle was, especially in this area here. Look how intense the battlefield. This is where Legion Spartans were fighting those Carthage Sacred Band units there. That's the intensity of the of that particular part of the battlefield. So I think by tactical use of the ground there, by both Legion and myself trying to take the higher ground there away from the enemy when they moved down, I thought that was quite a tactical use of the ground. That's why I like this map. It's got undulating ground, slopes as well, and so you can kind of make the most of the map there by tactically moving your troops around. But as you can see here, we're just finishing off the last of the enemy troops there. And I think at one stage of the battle, when we saw our Greek city ally and our Macedon ally taken out, I should imagine most of us in the battle, on both teams, thought that was the end of the battle there. So we really did snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Okay, it was an average victory there, which surprised me. I really thought it was going to be a close victory, to be honest with you, and I should imagine you probably thought the same as well there. I thought it definitely would be a close victory. Just like to draw your attention to the highest kills in the game, go to Lee, 2,058. So really nice kills for Lee. Well done, Lee. That was some nice kills. And look at my old Britannia army. Maybe 13, 14 years old. Look, still got the second highest kills, 1,720. Very, very pleased with that old army there, doing that. Macedonia, Mars probably didn't get the kills he wanted to there, but of course he was a little bit isolated and was fighting uphill. Legion did quite good there, bearing in mind he was fighting uphill as well. So, didn't do too bad. Aurelius did well, look, with the Seleucid faction there. Good kills, 1,536. BARC probably didn't get the kills that he wanted there, and probably neither did TRAJAN there, probably with his Carthage Sacred Band. But let's have a look at the battle statistics here. You can see Chosen Swordsmen maybe didn't do that good. They did okay. Maybe not that good. Head Herders, not too bad, but look at the kills of the chariots. 8 chariots for 113, 8 chariots for 206, 16 chariots for 189, no chariots for 180 kills, 2 chariots for 166, and 10 chariots for 111. So the chariots with the downhill charge bonus that we had there, look at the damage that they did. There's one head herder unit that got 106 kills, that's not bad. So I'd just like to say, really well played to everybody in the game there. And I like the diversity of the factions in this game. Look, we've got Britannia, Macedon, Greek cities, and Rome. And then we've got Seleucid, Rome, and Carthage. So it was a really good, diverse battle there. It's nice to see so many factions involved in this particular battle. And as I say, I like this map because it's a good tactical map. So really well played to Brotherhood member Aurelius. Really well played to Brotherhood MADKING, BARC and TRAJAN. Really well played, guys. I think maybe moving down the hill at the time that you did might have cost the game there. Just see what you think about that. But really well played to you guys anyway. Nice attacking tactics there by you guys. But also I'd like to say really well played to Mars, Legion and Lee. Like I say, really well played to you guys as well. We managed to stick together there, and we certainly did turn that battle around there, I thought. We really did snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. I know that's an old saying, but I think it's very true in this battle. This Spartan Commander saying, hope you enjoyed the battle. Look forward to seeing you soon, and bye for now.